Hey y'all, welcome or welcome back to my channel, Herculean Homeschooling. I'm Sarah, homeschool mama of 6, and for this video today I'm going to do a walkthrough of The Good and the Beautiful's History Level 1 and show y'all what we did like about it and what we didn't love about it so much. And right up front, you can know my review is that we weren't really big fans. We only made it halfway through and I just could not do it anymore. So we are switching curriculum. I will do a different video about what we switched to and why, but for this video, I'm going to show y'all The Good and the Beautiful History Year 1. So here's your first main book for the curriculum. It's your course book there. When you open it, you'll see your table of contents, and The Good and the Beautiful is divided into 4 years for their history, and each of those 4 years you study 4 different units, and each of the unit covers a different part of the world's history from the beginning to present day. So that way you're not focusing on like all of American history for one whole year, because a lot of kids can get burnt out of that, and parents, educators, we can get burnt out of teaching the same topic. So I do like that they start from the beginning and go to the end, just focusing on different groups. So in this first year, you have ancient history is your first unit, then the Middle Ages and the Renaissance, and then your third unit, I'm having a hard time turning the page. The third unit is the French and Indian War through the Revolutionary War, and the fourth unit is the Victorian era, the history of flight, and the Cold War era. So you can see that it's all over the world. They start one point in time, next point in time, all 4. And then your year 2 of The Good and the Beautiful, you're gonna go back to the beginning, but study a different group. I don't know the exact ones, you'd have to look on their website for that, which I will put in the description box. I do think it's cool that they break up the whole year with different groups of people and not studying the same exact thing for the entire year. As you keep turning the pages, you'll get to your lessons. So each unit is broken up into lessons. Some units will have like 10 lessons, some units will have 15 lessons. So that kind of varies, but they are close to the same time. So you spend about the same amount of time in each unit. For example, this lesson 4, I really like how it lays it out. It's really simple to follow and you can just open and go, which is my absolute favorite type of curriculum, being able to open and go. Now on here, we'll have the check boxes, which being a list maker, I love check boxes and being able to check it off when we've done something. Then we get to these recordings, these audio recordings. That's something that you'll get as you purchase the curriculum. You get the password to be able to listen to those audio recordings. That's one of the things that did not go well for us. So the audio recordings were like, I don't even remember the kids' names, but it's supposed to be like they're learning about this history from their aunt and uncle or something. And it's like, hi Sally, do you want to learn about history today? Why Jacob, I love history. Let's learn about history. Well, let me tell you, back in the medieval times, like it was so fake sounding and it drove me crazy. The kids did okay. We would usually turn it on while we were eating lunch or something. So they were busy doing something with their hands while they're listening to the audio recordings. And they do give you the transcripts if you would rather just read them out loud. You could do that, but that was just extra work for me that I was not going to do. So we listened to them, but it was not our favorite part. Now, in all honesty, we only made it through half of what I'm sharing, so maybe the second half gets way better, but we were just struggling so much through the first half that I'm like, I'm not even going to try to do that. So with your course book, you have the big book of stories. So here's your big book of history stories, and it'll tell you in the course book when you would read them. It's very wordy, but they do have beautiful pictures. The artwork is really lovely in this book. There's just a lot of words to go with it. So when you're reading the course book and you're reading the read-alouds and then you're reading this with it, it seemed like a lot. What I didn't love about this book is that it's telling the stories, but it's like telling the stories in a way that it actually happened. And this is my issue with the course book too. These two together, it was like they were trying to make it sound like this is exactly what these people actually thought, and this is what happened, and we just don't know, right? I appreciate when history curriculum will tell you this is what we think happened, or this is the stuff that we do know as fact, and then here's an historical fiction book to help bring that to life, but it's still fiction, and you know when you're reading it that it's a made-up story of what could have happened. And so I really do like that type of history, but this history, it made everything sound like it was supposed to be factual when oftentimes it wasn't. Even as they're talking about Bible stories, and we knew this was a Christian-based curriculum. That's one of the reasons why we chose it. But one of the things that actually bothered me were the Bible stories. When it was talking about the ancient history, it was throwing in these random Bible stories that are great, but they had like nothing to do, I felt, with the history that we were supposed to be learning. And so I was really confused at the disjointedness of why are we learning about these biblical stories in our history program when they don't even seem to be connecting anywhere. They never really came back and explained why we were using these stories. And then the stories, as they're sharing it, they make it sound like this is exactly what happened and exactly how Abraham felt as he was doing this. And I just have a hard time with that because we don't know that that's exactly how Abraham felt. But so if they would have presented it as more of a historical fiction or a story like this is what it might have been like, I think I would have been happier. But because in the course book and that big book of history stories, it just made it felt like this is how it was. That really kind of bothered me as we were doing it. And I feel the same way about science curriculum and things too. I think it's great to share this is a theory or this is how we think it might have happened, but when authors put it like this is what happened, when we don't really know that's what happened, that really bothers me. So it's not just an issue with the good and the beautiful. I've seen this in a variety of different curricula, and I'm just not a fan of that style. So that was probably the number one thing that really bothered me with this curriculum, is the way that they portrayed the stories as being factual when parts of it have fact, right? We know when Joan of Arc was born and when she went to fight for France. We know those things are fact, but to say like that she felt this way as she was doing this when we don't really know, that's where that line, crossing the line, in my opinion, of a history when you're just trying to teach facts. And then it's totally fine to add in a historical fiction, like the ReadAloud books. I really love literature-based learning, and so this was probably my favorite part of the Good and the Beautiful's History Year 1 were the different ReadAlouds. We only did 2, again, because we've only did half the curriculum. For the first section, this was the book that we chose on the Good and the Beautiful's website. I think there's a couple different options you can choose for each of the units. So the Boy of the Pyramids. This was a cute book. There's a few pictures, boy and a little girl, and my kids really enjoyed listening to this one. There are a lot of adventures that happen, so we did enjoy that book. For the second unit, we read The Saracen Steed, and this one, okay, I do a lot of read-alouds. Like all of these books up here are read-alouds that I've read to our kids. So, I'm not like a newbie to read aloud or something, and I really, not to brag, but I really love read-alouds, and I feel like I'm good at it. My kids always talk about my fun voices and stuff. This book, I don't know what it was. It was really hard to read out loud, and I was trying to figure out, was it the writing style? Was it the time period? Is it me? Like, what is it? And it's not like it's hard like Shakespeare or something, who it's just an old English type hard. It just, the words didn't flow, or the conversation didn't flow, or it wasn't clear enough in who was speaking for me to really do a good job with changing the voice, because I'd start reading and be like, oh, this is supposed to be somebody else, and it just didn't naturally flow as so many other books do. So I don't know exactly what it was about this book, but we didn't really enjoy this one as a read aloud. together. These next two we haven't read out loud, but they just went with the second half. There's Through the Wall and The Three Gold Doubloons. So this one you're getting to know just a couple pictures. And then here's the last one. All of the Good and the Beautiful books, you know there's not going to be any foul language, there's not going to be any negative themes throughout it. So I do appreciate knowing that I'm comfortable with the material that's in these books, and I can just give it to my kid if I wanted and let them read it and be totally fine knowing what's in there. They do have their reading, I don't know if you can see that from the light, but their reading levels are on there. So if you can't see that one, that's a 9. It's kind of hard to tell with the lighting, but their reading levels for what they recommend are on all of the books that they print. Another thing in the Good and the Beautiful's History Year 1 is the Keys of History game. And you can tell the cellophane is still on this, so we obviously have not opened it and played it. So I can't give you an honest review of what the game is like. In the course book, it'll say, if you have time, play the Keys of History game. And this is for all the years. I think it's just kind of an add-on to reinforce some things. So I don't know exactly what's inside because we've had it for months and have never broken it open. So I don't know. In addition to the actual curriculum itself, there are notebook type pages for you to print out for each of your kids, and you'll get the link for that when you purchase the curriculum. They have them for different grade levels, so like K through 3, 4th and 5th. I don't even remember actually all the different grade levels. They had like a young elementary, middle school, and a high school type thing. So I printed them out and put them in binders for each of my kids. And then you can see there's coloring, there's copy work. For the older ones, there's like research projects. There are things for them to define, different character traits to write down. So just a bunch of different activity sheets for them to be doing in addition to the stuff that you all do together. So I think that that's really great that you can do the bulk of it all together, and then they have some age appropriate activities to really reinforce what you have been discussing and working on for the various ages. So I think that is a great thing that the Good and the Beautiful does to make it to where you can learn together as a family and still push and encourage and build on the level of where your child is for the different age ranges. I believe that the Good and the Beautiful history program, they don't recommend history for under 3rd grade, if I remember correctly. So they recommend like 3rd or 4th and higher, which really surprised me because as I'm reading, I feel like so much of it is watered down. And if you're starting with a 4th grader, I mean, that's 9, 10 years old. There's some deeper topics that they're ready to start talking about and learning about. And I mean, obviously there's some things that they shouldn't be at that age, but most 9 and 10-year-olds are probably ready to hear some of the things and learn some of the things that weren't bright, happy spots in this world's history. And so I was just really surprised how watered down they really made it for older kids, when the older kids can learn some of the hard stuff. And so for me and my family, the way that it's written, I feel like it's actually written for younger kids. So I was surprised to see that they don't recommend starting until like 3rd or 4th grade. So that was another negative for me, is just how watered down everything is. And you don't really get to dive as deep into any certain topic. But I think part of the reason they do that is because they expect you to go over it again. So you do 4 years, history 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you start over 1, 2, 3, 4. So you're gonna again go back to those same categories that you've already studied, but because your kids are now 4 years older, you can go a little deeper and learn about some different things again and go deeper. And then if you have time to do it again, you're gonna go even deeper. So I understand why they've set it up that way, but at least for us, it was just too surface learning, and we didn't enjoy it enough to be willing to do this surface for a year, 4 years in a row, and then finally on the 5th year get to go a little deeper on a topic. We really like studying a topic for a whole year and really going down deep and really studying as much as we can about that topic before moving on to the next one. And that's just personal preference. One of the reasons our family didn't love The Good and the Beautiful compared to some of the other history curricula that we've used. But other families, I think, would really like that, and like that you get to surface study more a variety of topics and then go back and do the next layer. So it really is going to depend on your child, their learning style, and how they want to learn and what they want to learn about, and then you as a teacher as well, what's going to work better for you. So as a recap, the pros, I really like how The Good and the Beautiful is set up, open and go. I really like that there are read-alouds to go with each of the units. I love that there's check marks to know exactly what we're supposed to be doing, and I love that we get to all do it as a family. Some of the cons that I didn't love so much, I didn't like how watered down it was. I didn't like how they tried to make what they thought might have happened it sound like fact of what actually happened. I didn't like the auditory, the listening things that went with it. And it just wasn't a great fit for our family. So because of all of those different reasons, we have decided to switch to a different curriculum, but I wanted y'all to see what it looked like inside of The Good and the Beautiful's History Year 1, how it works, and hopefully that has been helpful to y'all. If you have any questions that I didn't discuss of why we didn't like it or why we did like it, go ahead and post that down in the comment box below. I would love to hear from y'all. If you'd like to see an unboxing of the history program that we did choose to go with, you can click this video right here. But before you do that, please don't forget to click my picture right here and subscribe to my channel. Thanks so much for watching, and until next time.